Exploring the bizarre. Your e-ticket ride into the world of the paranormal. Strap yourself in as we traverse the universe exploring the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology, as well as other dimensions. It's time to take back the night. Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
So this is the mysterious Skinwalker Ranch. I guess we should lay pretty low. We don't want security to know we're here. They don't like people crossing through the front gate that haven't been invited.
Yeah, I'd certainly much rather be here than trying to storm the gates at Area 51. And, wait. We have to look out for those shapeshifters. They've been known to attack livestock and humans.
Well, and to make matters worse, they can materialize right behind you, and you might not even know it until it's too damn late.
Tim?
Oh, yes, what is it? I'm trying to set up my camera equipment. Can't you see that?
Don't be scared, but there's one of those, skinwalkers right beside you, and it's got big claws and a mean snout. Let's get out of here.
Damn, hope we run into Bob Bigelow or some security people so they can show us to the front gate.
Well, let's just get back to the KCR studios where we can talk to our guests and find out what's really going on. Come on!
Next thing you know, the men in black will be after us. Well, I don't see the men in black. I guess they're not here yet.
Yeah, you're that's a setup for our next episode.
Ah, indeed. So, Tim, how are you out there in Jasper? I'm on the Hudson River, or pretty darn close to it.
That sounds nice.
Got to get a break. We're having a major heat wave here in the next couple of days. Of course, yesterday it rained, and today it's been overcast. Somebody equated this to being in San Francisco and not being able to see the Golden Gate Bridge.
Okay.
So we are going to spend the next day here. Maybe soak up. I was going to say soak up some sunshine, but
it's too much sunshine. Too much sunshine to be soaking up.
But we've got speaking of sunshine, we got a hot show tonight with a really exciting guest.
Yes, and I'm just very happy that we have Erika with us tonight. Now, for anyone who's been living under a rock, Erika is an artist and host of the radio show UFO Classified that's heard right here on KCOR. Now, Erika has an undying passion for the mysteries of the universe, particularly UFO reports and other strange aerial phenomena. Now, since childhood, she's been fascinated with the imagery of how vehicles and beings from space might appear, and she's pursued this interest quietly, but with determination. And due to her already established abilities with singing and some voiceover productions, she's been approached to perform media broadcast work. So now this, coupled with a long-term interest in strange phenomena of nature, has led her to take her first steps into radio in 2014 by developing her own programming and interview techniques of known figures in this topic. So now I should say that Erika is a team member for Project Orange, a program to study so-called balls of light phenomena that has ramifications in real-world science in the form of ball lightning and other particular luminous phenomena. Now, I should say as well that if you haven't seen her, check out Erika in UFOs, The Lost Evidence, which right now is playing on the Travel Channel. And of course, UFOs Classified right here on KCOR. So, Erika, thank you very much for being with us tonight on Exploring the bizarre.
Well, I can't wait I'm excited. And I have to say that you two are trouble, and so I know we're going to have a good time tonight.
You're absolutely right, especially when I'm on vacation. Then I'm
Oh,
extra.
dear.
Then you're right. We have been watching you on TV. Have they been treating you royally?
You know what? It's a great show. It's always nice to be involved with things, and I do on the Science Channel NASA's Unexplained Files. I'm in the new season and have a few other things, and it gives me a platform to reach a broader audience, which I love because I get calls and messages from people all over the world who are sharing experiences with me, and also I get researchers who are sending me their archives, donating archives to me so I can preserve history. So I mean, it really gives it.
Great.
It's
That's wonderful.
yeah, it's so much fun. I love it.
Well, how did you get involved with shape-shifting and Skinwalker Ranch?
So Utah is my hood. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, and I have had really profound experiences here. Since I was a child, I've had experiences, but in 2013, I had a series of sightings, and so I began to pursue research, and I found, MUFON, became the
Well,
state
how
director
close up?
for MUFON.
How
So I'm
what
2 hours
what did you
away.
see exactly? What did you
So
see exactly?
so I saw over the Ochre Mountain Range, and I had a beautiful view of the Salt Lake Valley. I saw the amber orange spheres, and they would hover over the mountain line for upwards, or the ridge line for over 45 minutes, and then one would appear to drop out of the other, move around in a circle, and they would move off. And so I, being 80 miles away from Dugway Proving Ground and being a community activist and a concerned citizen, I'm like, what is this? I want to know. And so I began learning, where the flight corridors for the Salt Lake International Airport were, where our restricted airspace is. And we have some of the most restricted airspace in the world, with the NSA being right here in Dugway Proving Ground and the Utah Test and Training Range and all of these things. And so I learned about all of that, and I began to, like hopefully most credible people in this subject, you learn to rule out mundane objects, which I did. And at the end of the day, what I witnessed was remarkable. And so I joined MUFON, and then really began to, as state director, dig into specific areas in Utah, Skinwalker Ranch, the Uintah Basin, which is, it is one of the most remarkable places on the planet, but there are other places just like it in Yakima, in Missouri, Piedmont, Missouri. Dr. Harley Rutledge, if I could speak English, yes, he, wrote a great book on that and did a study back in the 70s. And so I went out and I began to interview different families in the basin who had remarkable experiences, who were in close proximity to the ranch. And I've been cataloging different reports. I have met with, I spoke with Dr. Frank Salisbury. I spent a week up in the University of Utah archives going through Dr. Frank Salisbury's work, which most people have not seen. It was amazing. And then I also have spoken with and interviewed Junior Hicks. And so I've been doing a lot of work on that area because it is absolutely remarkable. And not only are there really profound things taking place, but then you've also got this aspect of people that have gone in to try to make money on the location, who have manipulated public perception and created some very negative and destructive things that go on in the community that are putting people at the ranch and in the area at risk. And so it's the whole thing's a freaking trip.
Well, now, how far back do these incidents go, and what is the similarity? Is there a similarity in all of them, or are they pretty? You described this light phenomena that you saw, but are any of them actual craft? Do you think? Are there similarities or dissimilarities?
There are structured craft that have been photographed and witnessed. There are, there are areas in the Uintah Basin where they're seeing shape-shifting creatures. I interviewed Chris Marks, who worked for Bigelow Aerospace the past 2 weeks on my radio show, and he was at the ranch for 6 years, excuse me, and he witnessed shapeshifters, skinwalkers. He witnessed different creatures, wolves that were shot at, almost point blank range, and they wouldn't drop. And so these are the types of reports and cattle mutilations. I mean, these things have been taking place for a long, long time. I mean, we're talking decades, if not longer. And when you reach out and do work and you talk to the people in the community, you get reports of the same types of phenomenon taking place, for a long time. But more than that, it's not just at Skinwalker Ranch, Tim, as you know, because you've been in this for a long time and have more knowledge than a lot of people that I know, and I respect your work. I just want to throw that in there. And I have a special place in my archives with your work. But it's, as you know, when we go to these places, different places in the world, they're all seeing the same types of things and recording the same types of things. And so we have to do our part to make sure that we're getting out there and cataloging these reports.
Now, have you ever had the opportunity, or has anybody had the opportunity to speak to the, I was going to say original owners of the ranch, the Shermans, but I'm sure they were not the first people to own that property. Have you ever spoken to them?
I have not had the pleasure of speaking to them. I would love that. I know that they're very guarded now, and they really want nothing to do with it, because I think that was a very traumatic experience to have. All of a sudden, they're scared out of their minds when they're witnessing these things. And then you've got all of a sudden the media descending on them. Zach Van Eck, who is an incredible reporter, wrote groundbreaking articles in the Deseret News about the ranch and about the Shermans. And I think that was, they endured a lot of ridicule in the community. And after they left, I think they decided that they probably didn't want to have a lot to do with it. So,
have you ever been on the ranch yourself?
I have.
Yeah. And did anything materialize for you?
You know what? It was a great experience. I hopefully I will talk about that. I've actually signed with the current owners an NDA, and am working with them with a lot of things. And I respect the work that they're doing. They're doing incredible work, and I really believe they're going to take what Bigelow did and they're going to move that forward 100 times. But I will talk about the experience that I had when I went up there to interview Junior Hicks, and I was right on the border of the ranch. It was dusk. There was a lightning storm rolling in, and I was there with a friend. We had a great vantage point of the ranch, and so we set up our equipment. And I noticed by the old homestead, I noticed a light that appeared to be shining up on the mesa. And I watched it and I thought, okay, there's a road here. I've got to rule out A, B, C, and D. What is this? And then we watched as this light traveled across the underside of the mesa, and then it appeared to both of us that this light moved out across the grass where the bait pins are, and it appeared to expand, and it looked like an illuminated mist. And we were sitting there trying to put things through the paces. This mist moved towards us and then around us, and the temperature dropped about 10 degrees, and the sound became very muffled, and then it would retreat. And then we were also, during this whole time period, I noticed above where Skinwalker Ridge is, where according to some of the best researchers in the world, these craft appear to move in and disappear and come out of. But I noticed an amber orange ball of light, and I photographed that. And at the same time, there was this amazing lightning storm blowing through. And so it was just absolutely, it was one of the most stunning and surreal experiences I've ever had. And we had some experiences before we went there within an hour span and after we left. And they were, again, just really, I mean, I still sometimes when I think about that experience, it was so mind blowing to me to witness what we did. I sometimes have a hard time putting it in words, but I'm very grateful that I could take photos of it. I have video of the exchange, our dialogue, and all of these things, and it was
When
absolutely
you say
incredible.
dialogue, with who?
So I was with a friend of mine.
Yes.
And so we were out there together and had talked to another person. I've got a person who lives out there that I've interviewed his mother and grandmother for 6 years. They've had experiences, and he gave me a specific location to go to so I would have the best view of the property. So I was there, and literally within 10 minutes of us getting out of the car, this proceeded to happen.
And what exactly precisely happened?
It was the light that was illuminating the mesa, the mist that formed.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
so it was.
any sightings of shapeshifters or creatures or spacemen?
Praise the Lord, no. I think what we witnessed was enough, and I will say, and I haven't really talked publicly too much about my experience, but I will say that I felt, and as did the person I was with, that whatever this was almost like a security system for the ranch or for this area, and so it was coming out and sensing us. And that sounds nuts, but that was what I was feeling. And then it retreated, and this happened several times. So we did at one point hear somebody walking behind us, and you could hear that in the gravel where we were, but I didn't see a shapeshifter.
What are they trying to secure exactly? I mean, what makes this property so valuable to any entity, whether it's a normal human being or some visitor?
There are sacred places all over the world. I mean, there are places where, and I believe indigenous peoples have understood this. They've utilized specific locations that seem to have more energy there. They manipulate this. They protect it. And I think that this is one of those places. I mean, there have been significant injuries on the ranch, and I believe that those injuries happen when something is disturbed in the area, and it's much like a haunting. If you're looking at people who have significant hauntings in their home and they're doing renovations or construction, activity appears to increase, and so that's I don't think this place is necessarily unique in that regard. Like I said, I believe that this is happening all over the world in specific locations, like Norway, like Missouri, like Yakima. And so what do we do as researchers to find out what the commonalities are, and how do we get funding to do good field research and then make the connections, and instead of sitting behind our computer and investigating a single case that we think is going to be the end all be all, and prove that we have other life forms moving around us. That's where I really feel we need to kind of move research forward.
Well, now, okay. So, what after having been involved with this for quite a number of years, what are your conclusions? Have you any conclusions you can share with us?
You know what? I don't. I wish I did, because it seems like it changes. The more I learn, sometimes the more questions I have. But I will say that I believe that there are, or I feel that this isn't necessarily extraterrestrial. I think there are aspects of all sorts of things that are interacting with us, and some people are more tuned in and can have experiences, and what it is, I have no clue. What the origins are, I don't know. I don't think anybody does, and I think it is, to me, pretty suspect that people are reaching, for the extraterrestrial thing, when in actuality we don't know.
Now, do you think it's all tied in, or are we talking about a place that just has so much energy there? Let's, for lack of a better term, that a lot of different phenomena are taking place.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. And in my interview with Chris Marks, who I was mentioning was an investigator for Bigelow, and he was there probably longer than any other investigator, 6 years. I mean, he felt and mentioned in the interview that there, by the old homestead, there appeared to be a certain type of phenomenon, and then you got over by the river, and it was completely different. And then you got up on the ridge, again, there was something different. And so it appeared that there were different energies in this environment, and they were commingling or not, but they were different types of things. So you could say here, in the old homestead, we've got ghosts, or spirits of departed loved ones that used to inhabit the homestead, and then you have shapeshifters, and then perhaps something like that going on, and then perhaps in another location it could be extraterrestrial. But it is a place where you've got all sorts of things happening.
Now, how about under the auspices of the new owners? Do you know if there's anything recent that's taken place there?
Yes, there is absolutely activity. I know that some people have claimed that the activity has died down, and that is absolutely untrue, that there is a lot of activity currently taking place. I speak with the owner frequently, and they have History Channel just greenlit a new show about some of the things that are going on there, which is, in my opinion, great, because they will be able to get funding to really continue some of the work that they're doing. And right now they have more up there and more going on with regard to research than most places that I know. Maybe Norway could be an exception with Project Heshdalen, but they're really doing good work. And the nice thing about the new owner is that he is not beholden to the government of the United States, which I think is huge. So he doesn't have to, dance around or do this and that. He can really do research and then eventually share his findings with the public without being beholden to the government.
And now you mentioned the incidents that are taking place in, was it Norway?
Yes.
Okay, Tim, we're going to have to wait on that question because we're coming up to our bottom of the hour break.
Now back to exploring the bizarre with two of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal, your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Welcome back to Exploring the Bizarre. I'm Tim Swartz. Tonight we're talking with Erika Lukes, who is the host of her own show, UFOs Classified, right here on KCOR. So, Erika, I wanted to ask you, Tim was bringing up Norway before we had to take our break. Now, this one location, and I'm not even going to try to say the name, you know what I'm referring to.
Yeah, it has fallen Norway. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
You were comparing it a little bit earlier with a Skinwalker Ranch, but has the location in Norway, now I know that there's been a lot of anomalous light phenomena there, but has anybody ever reported any other paranormal activity that's really as balls out crazy as you see in the Skinwalker Ranch.
It's interesting because I had the opportunity. I was invited over by Professor Erling Strand, who is with Oxford College University, and he is, in my opinion, probably the most important and groundbreaking researcher that we will ever know in this topic, and one of the most humble human beings I've ever met. And I was invited over there to visit science camp. So twice a year, they bring college or children, not children. I sound like Grandma Moses. That's really embarrassing. But kids, not even kid. Oh, baby Joseph. Anyway, so students from the College of Engineering, and so they go there twice a year, and they climbed different places in the valley. And this is harsh conditions. We're talking in the middle of winter, and they climb up to the tops of mountains where they've got the best observation points, set up their equipment, lots of equipment. They've got the funding from different universities in Europe, and they are gathering data. And 35 years ago, when Erling and his colleagues first decided that they wanted to do this, they had to look at a specific set of data. They couldn't just go in there and even though they were getting reports of A, B, C, and D, they had to decide what they could do to really get this studied and funded in a very scientific manner. And so they chose to look at the anomalous light phenomena. But when I was over there, I interviewed John Arvid, who has lived in the valley his whole life. There's a really great documentary called The Portal, which I would recommend everyone watches. And they interviewed his sister, but John was talking about these balls of light that were appearing outside their homes. He talked about the fact that they were seeing scoops of soil. It was lifted out, in a cookie cutter shape, and set many, at a far distance away with the branches intact. They were seeing these types of things. They were seeing structured craft. He mentioned that there was a person that saw a small entity. And so they're seeing this again, the same types of things that they're seeing at Skinwalker. And so it was really a remarkable experience to sit across from him in this teeny little valley and listen to his experiences as an 80-year-old and listen to how that affected him and how the community, just like Skinwalker, just like the Uintah Basin, how the community was in a way manipulated by the media and also really did not feel that they had a place to turn. And so that's why it was remarkable to see Erling Strand get in there and understand that he could use science, the scientific method, and give these people a sense of security and identify 4 different types of light phenomena that behaves intelligently or as if it's intelligently controlled. So this is big, and nobody in America knows about it because we're too busy, talking about Bob Lazar and Area 51 and all of this, that at the end of the day is just fluff, and it's not contributing anything to the actual study of what's taking place.
Well, what a shame, though, that due to the fact that, naturally he has to try to secure proper funding for his research, that he has to leave certain aspects of what's going on there out because of that, because it'll be perceived as maybe too crazy, too far out. Yet, as we all know, this phenomena has as an integral part of it these really high strangeness cases that revolve around what we would refer to as the more mundane aspects.
Right, absolutely. And I know that. They know that. But I think that again, when you're trying to really study something, you have to pick a pretty narrow area of focus because this isn't a repeatable thing. Mm-hmm. And so it's you've got to hone in on one area and stay, like I said, they've done the most remarkable research that nobody in the United States has heard about, and this is where it's at. And as somebody who was invited over there and got to talk to people in the community, and I still do, they are experiencing more. And so, because I'm not a scientist, I have the liberty to talk about more of these things, and hopefully I can work with researchers like Tim and you, where we can look at all of this and kind of put things together in a cohesive manner and move forward. But right now, like I said, that's just simply not happening, especially here in the United States.
Well, speaking of a more open perspective on the UFO phenomena here in the United States, what is your impression on the and I don't want to say new revelations, because for all of us, none of this is new. This is all old news. But this, the whole thing with the Navy UFO films and all of that excitement, and
Right.
it actually has people in the news media reacting, and really some reporters starting to somewhat take the subject a little bit more seriously, even though I've still read some very poorly written articles, talking about how even though these are trained pilots with excellent instruments, they were probably, still mistaken these UFOs for, weather balloons or flying fish or what have you, So, I mean, what is your perception on this new attention that's being given to the UFO phenomena?
And that's a great question. I think I feel it is a great thing, and I love the fact that I can have a conversation with somebody that knows nothing about the topic, and they can say to me, "Oh, I was reading the New York Times," or "Oh, I was watching Fox News," and we saw this, and people that normally don't go there are thinking about it, and that is huge. And so when the New York Times first broke their story in December 17th, 2017, I was immediately, I called every media outlet that I could find and said, okay, great, here's my chance as a researcher to connect with people in the media and then get good information out. And so I really valued the fact that was lending credibility. But I will say that they are reinventing the wheel. And, I'm friends with and have done field research with Ted Rowe, who's the executive director of NARCAP, who has, they've done incredible studies with Dr. Richard Haynes, who worked for NASA for 20 years. They have been getting military pilot sightings and commercial pilot sightings, and they've been seeing and written about and done incredible research on the same types of things. I mean, all of us know that when you look back historically, this isn't anything new. So to act like what happened on the Nimitz is the seventh sign of the apocalypse, I mean, it is important, but it isn't the first time.
Well, and I think the other aspect of all this is some of these pieces that are being written and some of the responses from the readers is still going back to that. This can all be explained by extraterrestrials, these the aliens from other planets, which for a lot of people, then that just it just clamps down the skeptical shroud around them. But so far, nobody has proven one way or the other that these are extraterrestrial spacecraft, yet that is still out there as the topmost suggestion on what these things could be.
Right. And in that, again, that's another brilliant point. I think it is interesting for me, as I look back, I have an incredible archive thanks to Barry Greenwood and Fran Ridge and Jen Aldrich, all people that, people I respect a great deal, who've been in this for a long time. You are familiar with them, but I have one of the best archives now in the Western United States. And when I look back historically, it is interesting to see, when the ETH it was inserted into the narrative, and how the powers that be in America have been promoting all of this. And I think that now we're seeing with To the Stars and Luis Elizondo and these people, I mean, every time you listen to something, it's the threat, the threat, the threat.
Mm-hmm.
And that really bothers me, because there have been many people, including people like myself, who have had experiences, and I don't view it as a threat. And so I think that right now what we're seeing is a manipulation of all of this, and I think it is an attempt to perhaps control people. It is also perhaps an attempt to garner funding. So we need to be very cautious about all of this, as much as there are great opportunities with this, and I'm very appreciative of all of this. I think that we need to maybe look at different factions involved in ufology or involved in research that have been involved for a long, long time, and look at their motivations very, very closely.
Well, I think that's it's actually part of human nature. I mean, definitely it's part of human nature to react to something new and unusual. Well, I mean, when I say new, I mean relatively speaking, with fear and suspicion. So I could see how some powers that be could be using that to manipulate public opinion, and then of course you have these stories that, I mean, oh my gosh, they've been around since the 1950s, of, say, like the silencers, the silent group, the men in black, or Air Force, supposedly Air Force personnel harassing witnesses, when the Air Force then claimed that they had never sent anybody over to talk to these people.
And that's, and what I would like to ask Tim, even though I know that you're interviewing me, but I mean, with Tim, with regard to your work with the UFO silencers, I mean, this is an interesting topic, and I really feel that there are factions now that are trying to basically do the same thing to people who are promoting good research, or people who have had profound sightings. So Tim, what is your brief take on the silencers and how they're interacting now with all of this?
Well, I've of course been collecting, reports, incidences of this type for years, and they continue to come in, but a lot of people, because of the nature of them, kind of keep it to themselves, and so there's a lot of reports of this type that just don't get to our desk that should be, and they don't.
Well, and Tim was, I think, one of the first, if not the only. There's been a couple, but they're suspicious, who actually took a picture of an alleged man in black.
Right. And
of course, that's been on the media, and there's an episode of the UFO Hunters where we discussed that and showed the photograph. In fact, Amazon Prime has the whole UFO Hunters series on now, so members of Prime can watch every show. A couple dozen of them, I think.
And so, I mean, did you feel, because I go back and forth on this, do you feel that the Men in Black are something, or the UFO silencers, I mean, is this paranormal, or is this a combination of
I
both?
would say a combination. I would say a combination of both. Sometimes witnesses get hysterical over something, and when you check into it a little bit further, it'll turn out to be some private UFO group sent some representatives over, and they want copies of the photographs or transcripts of telephone conversations or whatever it is, and they think they're being harassed, and maybe in a sense that they are. And then, of course, there are the reports of these MIBs that seem to have non-earthly qualities about them. Now, my thinking on this is that these Men in Black are really under the mind control of some separate entity, that they are actually human, but they have no idea or no recollection of what they're doing in most cases. And then when they gather the information for their handlers, then they forget all about it. Perhaps somewhat similar to what's in the MIB movie. That might be the only thing that is similar to what happens in real life.
And so, I'm sorry, I love this because you're such a wealth of information. But with regard to handlers, do you feel that there's something that is going on, obviously here, but out an international contingent, a group of people?
Well, I don't, I can't come up with a final solution to any of this. We've talked about synchronicities and living in the matrix, and it might be that whoever controls this matrix controls our destiny and can they want certain things to be kept secret to keep their identity. Away from being identified. But tell us about what you've been investigating as far as recent MIB activity in and around the Uintah Basin.
And thank you. And I'm sorry. Thank you for humoring me because I've got so much I want to ask you. So there have been reports in the Uintah Basin of, interestingly enough, white Audis with men in black. There is a taller fellow and then a fellow of shorter stature, and they show up at witnesses' homes and are interrogating them. And so some of the people are feeling that they're something paranormal or supernatural, and then who knows at the end of the day. But it's hard because I'm trying to get all of these sightings in one place so I can investigate. Ryan Skinner, who has skinwalkerranch.org, has talked about some of these sightings as well as Ryan Burns. So it's one of those things we just need to, as people that are investigating this, get together and put all of this out and kind of rule out whether this is something mundane or something that is paranormal.
Well, how are exactly they going about the frightening or harassing the witnesses? What do they seem to demand or want?
They seem to demand information. They want to know about specific sightings in the area, the typical sorts of things. And so, again, it's one of those things that I would like to learn more about. And I've been trying to reach out to both of them and get information so I can know. But I think it is interesting because there have been points in my life where I have felt that there have been, I know that I have actually been monitored by a faction or different people. And so, you look at some of these experiences and then you have to step back and say, okay, is this paranoia? Where is this coming from? So,
do these particular entities, do they have a forwarding address? I mean, do you know how to contact them?
You know what? I will get on that. And if anybody can dig that up, it'll be me. So.
Because I don't think anyone has actually had an interview with a real MIB. I mean, there's some fictitious things that are on the internet, but one can't hardly take them serious without some sort of validation, of course.
Well, never say never. So
the whole aspect of the Men in Black phenomena. I mean, it seems almost pointless, with the exception of trying to induce paranoia.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the things that we see, and I keep stressing, and my guest for the last 2 weeks, Chris Marks, has talked about, is the paranoid culture that people are creating. And I think some of the people unfortunately, the media or in the higher realms of ufology are creating this paranoia, and they're not doing anything to stop it. And I think the Storm Area 51 stuff is a prime example of people who are making a great deal of money, and they're not really caring about the safety or security of people that are working for our government. So, and then that's happened. And so where do we draw the line? Where do we stop creating these myths and or I mean, how do we figure out what is actually something paranormal or something that is just a paranoid delusion?
Yeah, good luck with that, right?
You know what? I'm thinking prescription medication, perhaps a margarita, good therapy, miracles happen. I don't know.
Well, and I should also add that if any of our listeners are thinking about going to Area 51 to storm the place, don't do it. Stay home. Do what Erika says. Stay home, have a margarita, whatever. You'll be better off.
Well, I mean,
Yeah. Besides, we need them as listeners, and we don't need more cadavers at Area 51. Should there be aliens actually in some frozen state out there? I would guess.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, there are better ways to spend your money, like actually, contributing to archiving or conducting good research, or donating to a radio show that is trying to do good work. And it's like, honestly, I think this whole Area 51 thing it's embarrassing. So
Well, Erika, we only have a few minutes left, so why don't you let our audience know where they can find out more about you, name of your show, things like that.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I have a show on KCOR, and Tim, both of you guys, I want to say that it is because of both of you that I have a show on KCOR. And so thank you for that. You introduced me to Tina, and I will forever be grateful, because Tina is an incredible radio station owner and host. My show is every Friday night at 4 p.m. Pacific time, and I do 30 hours of research a week, and I bring on guests who are very specific to my research, and I'm not a host that brings on somebody and has them submit their own questions to ask. So I do my own work. I know, shocking, but I do my own work. It's called UFO Classified, and then I'm on NASA's Unexplained Files, and also the Travel Channel UFOs: The Lost Evidence. So that's where you can find.
We will be tuning in. It is a pleasure to see you on TV and to listen to your show, as we have for quite a while now. Anyway, I want to thank you for being on, and Tim, it's been another wonderful experience for us, and I know we have a summer full of great guests coming up on a wide variety of topics. And don't forget to go to our YouTube channel, Mr. UFO Secret Files, where Peter will add much in the way of animation and pictures to stimulate your inner soul.
You've been listening to Exploring the Bizarre with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. They're taking back the night by jetting non-stop across the cosmos in search of the truly bizarre and totally unexplained, with you as their co-pilot. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on Exploring the Bizarre and hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz, check out their KCOR Digital Radio Network page. Follow their YouTube channel at MRUFO 1100. Exploring the Bizarre.